Hello YouTube. Just decided that I'd start reviewing all the Muppet films. Well, not all of them. The first three Muppet films I'm not going to be reviewing. I'm not going to be reviewing the Muppet Movie, The Great Muppet Caper, or Muppets Take Manhattan, quite simply because I haven't seen them recently enough to have any thoughts on them. But from the Muppet Christmas Carol to the 2011 Muppets film, I am going to review. Well, there might be a few in between that I haven't seen, just a very few. Like, I haven't seen Kermit's Swamp Ears, I've never seen that. So I'm not going to be reviewing that. I'm only going to be reviewing the ones that I've seen. Just like to say that when I was little, I used to be obsessed with the Muppets. And all I'd want to watch constantly was the Muppets, the Muppets, the Muppets. And I do still enjoy them a lot to this day. I still have a lot of fun with them. The first film, though, in the Muppet franchise that I'm going to be reviewing is the Christmas classic from 1992, The Muppet Christmas Carol. I'm sure all of you know the story of Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol, but for those of you who don't, it's basically about a selfish and greedy man by the name of Ebenezer Scrooge. He absolutely hates Christmas because you're supposed to give with Christmas, and being as selfish as he is, he hates this. He eventually gets visited by three spirits, and they teach him to change his ways. That's basically what it's about, even though there's obviously a lot more to it than that. As I told you before, when I was a child, this was one of my favourite films of all time. I could watch it all the time. I think it was possibly my favourite of the Muppet films. And now, I have to say that I wouldn't class it as one of my favourite films now or anything, but I do still really enjoy it. I find it to be a very entertaining film. The songs, for the most part, are good. And it is just all round really funny. There's so many jokes in it, it's just hilarious. I definitely recommend anyone check this film out. It's good for both adults and children, I think. It is easily my favourite Christmas film of all time, and definitely the best, in my opinion, the best film adaptation of A Christmas Carol that there is. It is focused a lot on laughs, but at the same time, it doesn't take away the seriousness of, it doesn't take away the message of A Christmas Carol. And the message is still very much there. And it does still have its serious moments. It's not just like a complete joke and taking the mickey out of A Christmas Carol. Well, it kind of is, but the message is still very much there. I'd recommend anyone to check this film out. It is definitely my favourite of the Muppet films, easily, and quite possibly always will be. And probably always has been as well. I can almost quote this film, I know it so well, but somehow it never gets old. To be honest, if I had to pick a weakest aspect of this film, it would probably be Michael Caine as Scrooge. I mean, he is a brilliant actor, but I just didn't think he was quite right for this role. I mean, Scrooge is meant to be a really grumpy, bad-tempered, selfish old man. And Michael Caine, for the most part, even though he is acting as a selfish and greedy and bad-tempered man, a lot of the time he comes across as too likeable, almost. A lot of the time he is rather jolly, even when he's bad. And there's a few times when he shouts at the certain characters, but that's about the only time when he really comes across as grumpy. The other times he says grumpy things, but kind of doesn't say them in particularly a grumpy way. At least from my perspective anyway. I know that a lot of people think he was the best Scrooge ever. And I think I really fully enjoyed his performance, but I just didn't think he was quite the best Scrooge ever. So overall, The Muppet Christmas Carol is a really good Christmas film. I definitely recommend checking it out. I'd rate it a 15.5 out of 20. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, I'd be grateful for any feedback on this new video. If there's any way that I could improve, please tell me. I want to make these reviews as... See? Hello? Sorry about that. My dog. I want to make these reviews as good as possible. Well, thank you for watching. Goodbye for now, and stay tuned for my review of the Muppet Treasure Island.